York City, it's the Gary Null Show.
This will be an everlasting love. This will be the one I've waited for. This will be the first time anyone has loved me.
And now, your host, Gary Null.
He found me in time, and I'm so glad that.
Hi everyone, I'm Gary Null, on location today, but broadcasting a lot of new information on health and healing. And we're going to talk about how berries, all berries, are extremely important for your health. In fact, probably one of the most single important things you can do each day is get as many berries into your body as possible. From there, we're going to look at the latest on the environment. We'll also be looking at some issues that we believe the American public should make more of a priority. Now, I realize we have to be grounded in some just basic understanding that we all have our individual responsibilities to our family, to ourselves, to our jobs, and there's not a lot of time left over to apply towards other issues. But if you can squeeze in even 2 hours a week into important social issues, that can make a difference. I'll explore that with you and show you some of those that are important. Also today, we're going to take a look at some of the audio clips that I believe give us a pause, moment to think, moment to reflect. And for example, today we're going to take a look at Germaine Greer. Now, Germaine Greer, arguably one of the most important and dynamic and outspoken feminist of the second feminist movement. And she's in a lot of controversy right now, and she's being attacked and booed, and because she did not come out and universally support all the different synonyms and concerning transgender women, or men. So we're going to hear what she has to say in a BBC News, and then I'm going to ask you to call in and share your thoughts. You could agree or disagree. You could add something on top of it. You could talk about your own position on this. Our talkback number is 888-874-4888. Also, I didn't have a chance to get to this is what they're teaching in college. I thought you'd find this interesting. And our whistleblower of the week is John Kirikawa. He was sentenced to prison. His crime was that he exposed the crimes of the CIA engaged in torture. The CIA was engaging in torture. The current nominee to run the CIA was one of the heads of that secret torturing program. People died while they were being tortured. And the rationalization was that, well, we got useful information. That has never been proven true. To the contrary, they have rebutted each one of those. So Kirikawa went to jail for exposing crimes against humanity. The criminals put him in prison. Now, does that make any sense to you? It does not to me. However, the deep state is revealing itself, and we intend to notch up one more degree of awareness beginning on Monday or Tuesday, when we complete our stage one, our first major investigative reporting article that's taken a year to work on. And it's completely factually verified. Our lawyers have gone over it. It's been reviewed by outside experts and scholars. It's devastating. And you have not heard anything like this before. In fact, I'm willing to say that what we're about to expose will be as important, if not more so, than what Hannity and Carter and some of the other people who are working on that investigation on Mueller and the people at the CIA and the Justice Department who conspired against Trump. Well, dislike Trump all you want, and there's a good reason to dislike Trump. I've made my own feelings very clear on that. Trump was the person that they could not control. They overreacted. In their overreaction, they showed their hand. In showing their hand, the entire media, corporate media, is protecting them and saying, keep moving, nothing to see here. And we're saying, hold on. Now, I disagree with the people on Fox almost universally. I disagree on their positions. I disagree when they have people like John Bolton on. They could have other people on, but Bolton's a warmonger. In fact, almost all the people they have on there have one thing in common. They all support the military-industrial complex. But on this one issue, Sean Hannity is right. Sheriff Carter is right. Jarrett, the lawyer on there, who I think is one of the best lawyers I've ever heard, he's right. And this is not going to be hidden. This is going to be devastating. But on our end, the progressive end, we're about to expose something that is even worse than that. So, and we haven't talked about it. We haven't shown anything. We will. And they're trying their childish things to stop it. For a day, our whole network was down. We're back up. And each time they do something, we bring in more experts who show us how this was done and how not to have it happen again. But in case it does, let me give you a phone number. Here's the number to listen live each day on the program. Please write this down. You never know when you're going to be someplace and you want to hear the show live, and you're not near a radio or you're not near a computer. 424-203-8046. Again, anywhere where you can dial a telephone, cell phone, hardline, or on your computer. Dial 424-203-8046. If you miss it and want to listen on the archives later, and by the way, a lot of people have, the number of people downloading the show that they missed, it's in the thousands and thousands and thousands. It's just an enormous amount of people went to the archives. Write this number down, please. 701-719-9976. 701-719-9976. So we've got a lot to share today, and we always begin with something that can help everyone everywhere in the world. After I finished my run this morning, I had my health drink. I only eat twice a day. I will grate a little bit during the day. I'll have a piece of fruit or a smoothie. But the less caloric intake you have, at least to meet your needs, the healthier you're going to be, the longer you're going to live. That's universal. Every study everywhere shows a caloric restriction to a person's actual caloric needs. You could be adding 10, 15 years onto your lifespan. Well, berries are low in calories. So I put probably a pound of berries, just wild blueberries alone. I'm not where I have access to other things, but I went into a store yesterday after I left an airport, and there was some organic wild blueberries, and I bought them, and that is phenomenal. But other berries as well. If I can get pomegranate, they're going to go in there, and raspberries and strawberries, goji berries, they're all good. This is from the University of Eastern Finland. They're saying that these naturally occurring pigments in the berries, and by the way, those are there to protect the berry. They're also known as, and you've heard me mention antho, A-N-T-H-O, cyanins, C-Y-A-N-I-N-S. These increase the function of what is called sirtuin, S-I-R-T-U-I-N, 6 enzyme. Now, why is that important? Because in cancer cells, according to this new study from University of Eastern Finland, they regulate the enzyme, and it can open up an avenue for cancer treatment that's natural, non-toxic. This is published in Scientific Report. Let me just give you a little primer. Sirtuins are enzymes that regulate the expression of genes that control the function of cells through key cellular signaling pathways. Now, aging beyond the age of about 27 causes changes in the sirtuin function, and these changes contribute to the development of various diseases. So sirtuin 6, for short, is a less well-known enzyme that is also linked to glucose metabolism. Well, in come the berries. This is where it gets interesting. And I realize I'm just being a little technical, but remember, we have a lot of scientists, physicians, nurses, people who appreciate the science because they could go to the scientific literature and see how important this is, then continue doing research or pass this on. All berries get their red and blue and purple color from natural pigments. These are the anthocyanins. This is from the study. Quote, "The interesting results of our study relate to cyanidin, which is an anthocyanin found abundantly in wild blueberry, black currant, and loganberry." And this is according to Director of Pharmacy, the lead author on the article. Now, just a little more. This cyanidin increases the SIRT6 enzyme levels in human colorectal cancer cells, and it was also discovered to decrease the expression of a TWIST1 and a GLUT1 cancer genes, which increasing the expression of tumor suppressor FOX3 gene cells. And the researchers also designed a computer-based model that allowed them to predict how different flavonoid compounds in plants can regulate this enzyme. So that means that when you have berries, you are lessening the role of cancer pathogenesis, and you're laying the groundwork for prevention big time. So the School of Pharmacy of the University of East Finland had a research group on this, and they did all this work, and they said, you want to express less cancer gene activity and less cancer cell growth? Eat the blueberries, especially the wild blueberries. So I think that's very important. So one more way that we can reduce disease. I work with a lot of people with diabetes. In fact, this summer I'm going to be doing several support groups, but one of them for 3 months, meeting once a week, will be with all religious groups, meaning through synagogues, different congregations and churches, and all of these different groups, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, all of them, have diseases that are very high up in their communities. So if we can get the religious communities to work towards a way of helping on a natural, non-toxic way to eliminate disease, and you're more motivated with a healthy support group within a religious group, because they're your family members and friends, and everyone wants to see everyone else get well. So I predict that by the end of this summer, we'll have people losing weight, their blood pressure coming down, their cholesterol's coming down, inflammatory markers for heart disease and stroke coming down, people with pain and arthritis diminishing or gone, people with diabetes gone, cured. That's what I'm predicting. Let's see if I'm right. And just one of the things that I'm going to be advocating is GABA, gamma-butyric acid. And it's a supplement. Now, this is what the Uppsala University in Sweden has to say about the relevance of GABA for diabetes in 2 separate studies. And this dynamic interreactions between the nervous system and hormones and the immune system are normally ongoing, but in diabetes, your balance is disturbed. And these 2 studies, published in eBiomedicine by the international research team of Uppsala University, highlight the importance of the neurotransmitter gamma, G-A-M-M-A, amino, that means that amino acid, A-M-I-N-O, butyric, B-U-T-Y-R-I-C, acid, or GABA for short. And by the way, this works in type 1 diabetes as well as type 2. Now, GABA is synthesized by an enzyme called GAD, G-A-D, from the amino acid glutamate in nerve cells, but also importantly in the insulin-producing beta cells in the pancreatic islets. And GAD has 2 forms, GAD65 and GAD67. And in type 1 diabetes, beta cells are destroyed, while type 2 diabetes is associated with impaired beta cell function and insulin resistance. So patients with type 1 diabetes often have antibodies to GAB65. However, there has been no strong link between GABA and type 2 diabetes until recently, when it was shown that GABA is important for maintaining and potentially also in making new beta cells. That's a big discovery. And the two current studies, now published in eBiomedicine, reinforce the image of GABA's importance for both types of diabetes. And the scientists have shown this in the articles I published on my website. And so if you want to have healthier immune cells, if you want to have more of the islet cells for your pancreas, if you want to have more stability in your blood sugar, if you want to have strong anti-inflammatory effects, because GABA is a strong anti-inflammatory, especially vital to the pancreatic cells because that can help prevent inflammation of the pancreas and hence pancreatic cancer. So GABA is really good. And also toxic white blood cells be inhibited, and that increases the survival of the insulin-secreting beta cells. And when the beta cells decrease in number and disappear from the islets, as happens in type 1 diabetes, then GABA consequently is also decreased, and therefore GABA protective shielding of the beta cells. So you want GABA, so take some GABA. And if you have a child or adult with type 1 diabetes, make sure they're getting GABA as directed each day. It's inexpensive and easy. For all the people in the audience who have been meditating, good for you. You're on the right side of this issue. University of California, Davis did a study. It was a 7-year follow-up showing lasting cognitive gains for meditation. So gains in the ability to sustain attention developed through intensive meditation training are maintained up to 7 years after you've meditated. That's according to a study published in the Journal of Cognitive Enhancement. This is very important with people with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, memory loss, and dementia as well. And this study is based upon the Samantha Project, which is a major investigation of the cognitive and psychological and biological effects of meditation. And this was led by the University of California, Davis' Center for Mind and Body. Quote, "This study is the first to offer evidence that intensive and continued meditation practice is associated with enduring improvements in sustained attention and response inhibition, with the potential to alter longitudinal trajectories of cognitive change across a person's life." So, meditate today. I'm going to have a better brain tomorrow. Also, practicing Tai Chi, Tai, T-A-I, Chi, C-H-I. Chi is the life energy. It helps improve respiratory function in patients with COPD. And this is from the Laboratory of Respiratory Disease in Guangzhou, China. So this was published in the peer-reviewed journal Chest. So Tai Chi is easy to do, costs you nothing, and it's a great meditation, and it lowers your blood pressure. It stimulates endorphins, much like running. Originally it was an ancient martial art that involved significant levels of physical exertion, and it's finally gaining some notoriety in a good way in the United States. It's been used in China for a long time. And they tracked 120 patients with COPD and who never used a bronchodilator, and they found that after they began treating, they gave them a group. One group took Tai Chi, the other group took a drug, and the group of Tai Chi did terrific after 12 weeks. And garlic extract can reduce dangerous plaque buildup in arteries. And this is from the Los Angeles Biomedical Research Institute, published in the Journal of Nutrition. 1 teaspoon, I would suggest, twice a day, will kill bacteria and viruses in your throat. Gargle it, then swallow it down. It'll kill parasites and candida and harmful bacteria in your intestines. It doesn't hurt the good ones. It can lower blood pressure. It's just one of nature's most perfect foods because of the sulfuric group. But now it shows that it also gets rid of the low attenuation plaque, or what we call soft plaque, in the arteries. and you want to get rid of that plaque in the arteries. Quote, this study is another demonstration of the benefits of this supplement in reducing the accumulation of soft plaque and preventing the formation of new plaque in the arteries, which can cause heart disease. Okay, so that's good. And finally today, I remember once having a debate with a psychiatrist who was the chief psychiatrist of the city of New York, and he was visiting, as a lot of scientists from all over America and Europe came to the Institute, and they came upstairs to the third floor where I was doing my anti-aging research for 33 years. And I had one of the most unique laboratories in the world. And I did about 100, somewhere between 140 and 150 original studies. For example, the study that discovered and proved that every food contains all 8 essential amino acids to varying degrees and percentages, and it's not just animal proteins that we need that have the 8 essential amino acids. Even my textbook, Normal and Therapeutic Nutrition by Robinson, had that only animal proteins contain all 8 essential amino acids, 9th if you're pregnant. It showed that none of that was correct. That's old science. So it really revolutionized it. By the way, I've had a lot of articles published in the peer-reviewed literature. I presented my information between 1,000 to 7,000 scientists at scientific conferences throughout the time period. And this particular article took 12 years before it was accepted into a peer-reviewed journal for publication. I kept asking why. This is a major scientific breakthrough, one of the most important scientific breakthroughs of the 20th century. After all, think of the significance. You no longer have to consume meat, dairy, fish to get your important amino acids. And every family in America was told to have 3 servings of protein a day only from animal sources, because nothing else gives it to you. Think of the people in Africa who are limited in their let's say, the amount of rain or their ability to harvest certain animals because of low grassland yield. Now they don't have to have any animals. They can grow plants based upon their protein profile, and you can grow companion plants so that if one group has 8 amino acids but they're weak, another one has strong, you grow the 2 together and you have very high yields of amino acids. Even one of the top people from the UM came and we sat and talked about this. They later, after saying, I'm going to do this, it's very important, it can save hundreds of millions of lives in Africa from starvation, nothing happened, and the person had to admit it was all politics inside the UN, which is all politics anyhow, because the dairy industry, the meat industry, the chicken industry, the hog industry, the fish industry, they all had represented, the egg industry, they all descended to make sure that this information didn't get out because it would destroy their industries. Anyhow, they won, and that information would never go anywhere. But I had a lot of interesting people over those decades come through the Institute to watch what was doing or ask could they do their own little quiet project that they wouldn't have been allowed to do in their own institution, especially in psi research. And one of those people was the former head psychiatrist, Department of Psychiatry in New York. Very nice man, very progressive man, but he had this belief. We had a discussion one evening about the brain. And I said, I believe we can grow new brain cells. He said, that's not possible. I said, well, it's not possible because no one's done it. Science should never be a matter of consensus about what can't be done, but rather always allows someone the opportunity to prove that it can be. When science becomes orthodox, it ceases to be real science. And anyhow, the discussion ended over, a few minutes where you can't grow them, let's try. This is from Columbia University today, as we speak. Older adults grow just as many new brain cells as young people. Let me repeat that. For all the neurologists and all the people working in brain behavior, quote, older adults grow just as many new brain cells as young people. How about that? So for the first time, it has been shown that healthy older men and women can generate just as many new brain cells as younger people. And there's been controversy over whether adult humans grow new neurons, and some researchers have previously suggested the adult brain was hardwired, just like they said the heart was hardwired. Now we know it's not. And that adults did not grow new brain neurons. This study, to appear in the upcoming Cell Stem Cell today, counters that notion. The lead author, Dr. Maura Boldrini, associate professor of neurobiology at Columbia University, says the findings may suggest that many senior citizens remain more cognitively and emotionally intact than commonly believed. Quote, we found that older people have similar ability to make thousands of hippocampal new neurons from progenitor cells as younger people do. We also found equivalent volumes of the hippocampus, by the way, that's the brain structure used for emotion and cognition, across ages. Nevertheless, older individuals have less vascularization, maybe less ability to new neurons to make connections, end quote. How about that? Now, here's what she may not know, but having done the longest brain rejuvenation study that I'm aware of in American history 9 years ago, that's where we reversed Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, myasthenia gravis, and multiple sclerosis. And we didn't have enough people in the study to make it concrete. It was an observational study. Meaning, from this study, we have to do a larger study with more people. But all those people who were in the study have remained improved or cured. And I've had them on this program. You've all heard Kenny. You've heard the people. In any case, I'm going to do another study because what the key word there was the state of a person's health is such that they're not going to be able to rejuvenate new tissue and new neuron activity in the same amount as someone who's healthy. Then how do you take someone who's in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s and rejuvenate that so that then those new stem cells can manifest, new neurons can grow, in effect rejuvenate the brain? And I'll be sharing that information in about 4 weeks with you. At the end of 4 weeks, I'll be bringing forward on the radio 4 people I'm working with who are severely brain depleted, brain malfunctioning. And I'm in the process of working with them to rejuvenate their brains. I'm seeing some very positive results. So I'll share my protocol to the world, which I do with all my protocols, so that others in this audience can either take these protocols to their naturopath, physician, nurse practitioner, holistic nurse, and have them apply it for you. That's the latest on health and healing. I'm Gary Null. We're going to take a break and come back. And when we come back, we're going to go directly from the break into whistleblower John Kirikawa and what he had to say. It's a short 3-minute, 20-second clip. And mind you, just keep this in your mind. His only crime was reporting on others' crimes. And for that, he became tagged as a criminal. And the people who he exposed who were criminals, the left now consider them real heroes. Back in a moment.
Off this hour, after a long and tedious trial process, former CIA official John Kiriakou was sentenced today to 2.5 years in federal prison. Last October, the 48-year-old pled guilty to violating the Intelligence Identities Protection Act by leaking the name of a covert official's name to reporter. Something that U.S. District Judge Lene Brinkema says was not a form of whistleblowing. The district judge said that if she had been given the choice, she would have sentenced Kiriakou to much more time behind bars than the relatively light sentence he had received. Kiriakou was also one of the first CIA insiders to confirm reports that the agency used torture tactics like waterboarding in order to extract information from detainees. Now, at an event honoring him, Kiriakou was quick to point out the hypocrisy of prosecuting the whistleblower and not the people who actually performed the enhanced interrogations.
I never tortured anybody, but I'm heading to prison while the torturers and the lawyers who papered over it and the people who deceived it and the man who destroyed the proof of it, the tapes, will never face justice.
No date has been set yet for when John Kiriakou will report to prison to begin his sentence.
Now, here's what you should appreciate. He went to prison. He's out. We're going to be interviewing him, I believe, next week. But did you hear a few things? The judge wanted to sentence him to longer prison time, and he committed no crime. But all the people who did commit crimes, they're free, and he wasn't. And he is forever now with that label of having, been a traitor. What are your thoughts on that? And remember, the one president who put more people on trial or sent more people to prison than all other presidents combined was Barack Obama. What does that tell you about who he really was as a human being? And the person who won the Nobel Peace Prize invaded more countries than any other president in American history. That was Barack Obama. And under his watch, implemented a drone program that has killed upwards of 10,000 innocent civilians. And all the people involved in this somehow believe that all you have to use is the word liberal or Democrat, and everything is expunged from moral culpability for what you did, because somehow the ends justify the means. This is the society we're living in today. Also, I want to thank all of the 300 people, including my granddaughter, Amber, for going into New Jersey and shouting down the lawmakers, letting them know that you're angry over the vaccine vote and requiring a notarized explanations for why you want to not have your child vaccinated. I have posted hundreds of actual statements or evidence that young women in particular are dying, or over 40,000 injured because of the Gardasil vaccine. There is no science backing that up. I've written articles on it. You can read the articles. It is a crime against humanity. And these lawmakers that are supporting this, they're being influenced by ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, working behind the scenes in secret, and the big pharmaceutical lobbies. Here's one of the things we all should do. You want to vaccinate? That's your right. I support that. But what if I don't want to vaccinate? That should be my right. It's my body. Since when does the state control and own your body? Since when do we stop realizing that once the state, this beast, this toxic, malignant beast that is the state, when it takes power over you, you will not have any recourse at that point. And thank goodness there are those in this audience and in American citizens who have resisted many different types of state authority over them. Because once they can get into your body, put anything into your body, and put any amount of anything into your body, and put aluminum and mercury into your body, put aborted fetal cells and polysorbate 80 and formaldehyde, embalming fluid into your body, and you can't resist it, and if your kid doesn't go along with it, your kid can be taken away by the state, the beast, and then you're charged as being an unfit or abusive parent. And behind it all is the deep state and Big Pharma, and the media is 100% complicit with them. Now understand something about the media. You've got some very bright people in the media, well-educated, very talented, articulate, and fully intellectually capable of dissecting any story, parsing it and the nuances, and seeing the truth, revealing it. Then why haven't they? Why haven't not one single major media, not one, investigated the truth behind vaccines? So what can we do? Let's at least level the playing field. How do we do that? All of us should be lobbying our legislators to rescind the 1986 order that allowed vaccines to be exempted, the manufacturers from lawsuits, and then let them go ahead and make all the vaccines they want. But now, every time it hurts someone, they can be personally sued. And let's see how long we have mandatory vaccines, and all these vaccines, over 260 more vaccines coming in the pipeline. That should be easy to do. It isn't, because of the power that they have. Now, I'm going to go back to another clip here, and this is what they're teaching in college. This is a short clip. I'd like to hear you hear this, and then I'd like your response.
Aren't you just sick and tired of being lectured about your lifestyle by mega-rich celebrities?
Climate change is real. It is happening right now. Let us not take this planet for granted.
Except, of course, if you need your eyebrows plucked before the Oscars, in which case, screw the planet and fly makeup artist Sharon Lee Hamilton from Sydney to LA. A round trip of 15,000 miles. That's 14 metric tons of CO2 emissions. Now, to be fair, DiCaprio denied that he was personally responsible for flying out Hamilton. And that's really believable, isn't it? Because we know Leo is a committed eco-warrior with steadfast principles, right?
Absolutely not.
DiCaprio took a private jet 4,000 miles from Cannes to New York to pick up an environmental award, then flew another 4,000 miles straight back to France. That's another 4 metric tons of CO2 emissions. He also flew on a private jet to Brazil for the World Cup, then stayed on a 470-foot yacht owned by Sheikh Mansour, whose 30 billion plus wealth primarily comes from oil.
By the way, that yacht uses fuel equal to 83 American households' annual worth of CO2 emissions.
Then just 3 months later, DiCaprio was in New York for the People's Climate March, alongside protesters who held signs that said, "Keep the oil in the ground."
It is the most urgent threat facing our entire species.
Yeah, it's such an urgent threat that DiCaprio took 6 round-trip private jet flights in just 6 weeks between April and May 2014. He also took a private jet from LA to Las Vegas and stayed in Vegas for just 8 hours to attend a party before flying all the way back again.
In 2015, as the hottest year in recorded history.
Leo was so worried about global warming that just months after that speech, he flew his celebrity friends 6,000 miles from LA to Saint-Tropez so they could listen to his speech on, you guessed it, global warming. But Leo has to travel. If he didn't take all these private jets everywhere, how could he possibly warn the world about the deadly danger of climate change? Surely he's compensating for it in other areas. Surely he's compensating for his movie The Beach, which was accomplished as a result of a precious ecosystem in Thailand being completely ruined. Maybe he's compensating for it when he preaches about the need to curb overfishing, then screens a film about overfishing at a foundation bash, then serves his guests whole sea bass, having flown them all in on CO2-belching helicopters. But to be fair to Leo, he's only following the example set down by Bono, who rails against
climate change,
yet spent $1,500 to fly a hat he'd forgotten from England all the way to Italy. Or the example set by Al Gore,
It is half man, half bear, and half pig,
whose electricity usage in one property alone was 20 times the national average, who lectures everyone about a catastrophic rise in sea levels, then buys an oceanside villa. Leo, you're a great actor, but you're a terrible virtue signaller. And when it comes to being environmentally friendly, you're a very naughty boy. You're literally the worst possible ambassador for this imaginable. You say fossil fuels should be taxed out of existence, but if this happened, your lifestyle would cease to exist. Please, Leonardo DiCaprio.
You need to shut up!
Okay, that's one example. I shared that example of Leo getting the river keepers, getting the award from them and coming from Canada on a private jet. I've seen this in two ways. I do believe that DiCaprio is committed at one level of trying to bring us an awareness, and he has, of global warming, which we all know is real and very serious. The other part of it is his personal choices. And I believe if you're going to be talking about something, make every effort not to be hypocritical. Because there are celebrities who don't fly on private jets. They could, they choose not to. And who are almost on a daily basis doing something good about the environment. And those people, I have yet to see any of them invited to the UN or any of these major conferences. So I appreciate when someone who is well known takes a stand on an issue and it educates people. My hope is that they just won't be hypocritical, just like, as I mentioned yesterday, so many celebrities living first in gated, walled, and their property is protected by armed guards. Now that's their right. And I do not, how people spend their money is their business. And how they made it, as long as it was legal, that's their business. But at the same time, then please don't go on television and tell everyone else, tear down those walls, or don't build that wall, if you have built a wall. And if you're going to tell someone that you're against, all arms, but you have armed bodyguards, it just reeks of a hypocrisy. When people said, well, the deplorables, that's half the American population in the minds of those who believe that Trump stole the election and Hillary unfairly lost it. It was her turn. She deserved it. In point of fact, nearly half the people who voted for Trump don't like Trump. They don't like anything about Trump. The only thing they like about Trump is that he made promises they hoped, they wanted to believe he would keep about their jobs. These were blue dog Democrats. These were union members. These were people who were liberal, but all the liberals had betrayed them over the last 40 years. And why don't we accept that? Why can't we look at what the liberals have promised and not given them? We won't do that. And we talk about saving the children and protecting the children, as we should, as the moral imperative means we should all protect and help children. Yet 500,000 children in one country, Iraq, died because specifically of the Clinton sanctions. And they took pride in that. Their representative, Madeleine Albright, says, was it worth it when Leslie Stahl asked the death of 500,000 children from these sanctions? She said yes. What kind of mind says having 500,000 innocent children die is okay? How's it worth it? And no one's held her accountable. She's the darling of the liberal democratic community, as is Hillary Clinton. So where are we in this cognitive disconnect between the reality of what a person does and versus the promises they make? Politicians and celebrities live on platitudes. And now it's this whole idea that they're very righteous. Fine to be righteous, but live it. Don't just talk it. Now let's listen to Germaine Greer, and she's on the hot seat right now for her statements. What are your thoughts about her statements? Here they are.
I was going to talk about women and power, the lessons of the 20th century, because I think there's a lot of triumphalist talk that masks the real historic situation. And apparently people have decided that because I don't think that post-operative transgender men, i.e. M2F, transgender people are women, I'm not to be allowed to talk.
But surely if a man who feels that he actually would like gender reassignment to make her feel more comfortable in her body, then that's what should be done. They should be allowed to do that.
I'm not saying that people should not be allowed to go through that procedure. What I'm saying is it doesn't make them a woman. It happens to be an opinion. It's not a prohibition. Carry on, if that's what you think it is you want to do. I've been accused of inciting violence against transsexual people. That's absolute nonsense.
But do you feel that the transgender community has too big a voice now? It seems to me you're saying that they're becoming what feminists were often called strident.
Yes, but they very seldom were strident, alas. I think that a great many women don't think that post-operative or even non-post-operative transsexual M to F transsexual people look like, sound like, or behave like women. But they daren't say so.
But just because they daren't say so doesn't mean that that person can't feel like that and feels more comfortable with themselves.
Yeah, but so what? That's not my issue. I don't even talk about it. Not everybody does feel comfortable, by the way, post-operatively. There's been a couple of cases I found very interesting where the actual acceptor of the procedure has felt that it's been a disaster.
But for those who do not feel it's been a disaster and feel more comfortable, then do you understand how they might feel that you have been hurtful towards them?
People are hurtful to me all the time. Try being an old woman. I mean, for goodness sake. People get hurt all the time. I'm not about to walk on eggshells.
So you believe in free speech, really, no matter what?
Well, not quite no matter what. You don't have to say everything that's in your mind. You do use tact in the usual way. I would, for example, with someone who wished to be known as female, use female speech forms as a courtesy.
Now, though, didn't she, and offered the chance to remove these inner testes?
We remove undescended testicles from men because they're dangerous. I'm sure they wouldn't be allowed to just lurk because that would be, I think that would be a problem. I mean, physically a problem. But then it's also a problem if what you have to do after gender reassignment is use steroids every day of your life. That's not a happy outcome either.
But it may be a happy outcome for them, and they may feel that you are, in a way, denigrating them for taking that road.
Oh, don't even talk about them. They're not my issue. I haven't published anything about transgender for years.
So how do you feel about the idea that Newnham College, your own college, is considering not giving you an honorary doctorate, apparently because of what you've said about the transgender community?
There's been 2 votes at my college on the question of whether or not I should have an honorary degree, and I'm not going to get one. They've been turned down, which is thought by some people to be astonishing, but not by me.
So someone like Caitlyn Jenner, for example, who is who's been in the front of lots of magazines and apparently is, I think I'm right in saying, getting an award for being a Glamour Woman of the Year. What do you think about that?
I think it's misogynist. I think misogyny plays a really big part in all of this. That a man who goes to these lengths will be a better woman than someone who was just born a woman.
But are people, you would say, necessarily born a woman or born feeling female? And if he feels more female...
It seems to me that that what was going on there is that she wanted the limelight that the other female members of the family were enjoying and has conquered it just like that.
Will Young apparently has a new video out, I don't think you've seen it, in which a transgender person is going down the road and is abused. Reasonable position?
Am I mistaken in thinking that this individual is naked and running down the street with just a hand over her genitals? You try running with your sagging breasts down the middle of the street and see what people will throw a blanket over you and grab you and call the police. For fuck's sake! It is simply not true that intersexual people suffer in a way that other people don't suffer.
Would you ever consider saying something more ameliorating?
No. I'm getting fed up with this, I've had things thrown at me. I've been accused of things I have never done or said. People seem to have no concern about evidence or indeed even about libel.
If a man has his gender reassigned and outwardly, and he feels inwardly is a woman, in your view, can he be a woman or not?
No.
Do you understand how people feel that's insulting?
I don't care.
Okay. Sorry, this was the BBC, and I didn't think that they would allow that to go out without editing it. In any case, that's her point of view. And this is one of the strongest-minded and one of the most important feminists of the 20th century. And now she's finding on her opportunities dried up completely, being attacked. Your thoughts on this? 888-874-4888, 888-874-4888, and also the hypocrisy of celebrities telling us one thing and doing another. I'd like to hear what you have to think. It's your opportunity to talk out. And each day now I'm giving the millennial generation that I believe we should be working cooperatively with to make it a better world, to work on some projects, or at least process by researching projects. And one of the most important ones could be ending the war on drugs. And the war on drugs is one of the worst fiascos since Prohibition. And we should legalize all drugs, provide proper treatment for those who have been hurt by using drugs, and not have any more crimes against these people. Expunge all drug users' records so they can regain some stability within society. I'll just read this. The whole article is published on GaryNull.com. This is from Brian Sadie from Counterpunch. It's entitled, "The War on Drugs is Far Deadlier Than Most People Realize." While accepting the Nobel Peace Prize in 2016, Colombia President Juan Manuel Santos said the manner in which this war against drugs is being waged is equally or perhaps even more harmful than all the wars the world is fighting today combined. That's powerful. The death toll from the drug war is much less than the actual warfare throughout the world. However, his sentiment is quite appropriate because a significant percentage of the world's violence could be prevented with a flick of a pen by ending the war on drugs. And just for a moment, I want this audience to stop and think. If we could essentially eliminate the black market for the drug traffic in Chicago, which has the highest number of gang members and homicides in America, it up to 80% of the city's murders are gang-related, and one of the main causes of this violence is connected to controlling turf for drug sales. And so gang violence is rampant throughout the United States. In fact, the National Gang Observer estimates 13% of the murders in the United States are gang-related. And Narco News estimates 1,100 drug war-related murders occur each year in the United States. And keep in mind that figure is really conservative due to the lack of full transparency. It's a $100 billion a year industry. It's a problem to the world by bringing our narco teams there and what it's done to their population. Now, the whole article and all the rest is up on my website. But why not start a national campaign to legalize drugs, give help to those who have used them, expunge the records, open up the prison cells, have proper rehabilitation when people come out because they're all suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Kristen from Queens, your turn, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Gary. I had to call in on this because I just heard the piece with Jermaine Greer, and I think it's really important. I would love if you would have an actual program on this, because I find this whole gender thing really disturbing as a woman and as a baby boomer like you are. I don't hear anybody making the distinction that the male and female is a biological distinction that we have to identify, okay, just like we have language and words instead of grunts, to identify a person who has what we could consider female genitalia or male genitalia. That is what it is. It has nothing to do with sexual preference. I think it's independent of what a man who wants to be a woman or vice versa might feel about themselves. Maybe there's that feminine side that comes out. Sexuality is much more complicated, and I think it's very unsettling in the way that everything is put in this box, and we're told that this is what we have to say. We have to have a little label on our forehead like a scarlet letter, the adulterous Hester Prynne. But this thing with gender, I find it disturbing, not because I have a problem with someone who may feel differently from myself. I think everyone has a right to needs to have love in their lives. And if they wish to choose their lives a particular way, it's their business. And, you know, just frankly speaking, if I may say one more thing, I find so much now, I know that this is the time we live in, everybody knows everybody else's business. You know, what you do behind your closed doors and how you live your life is your business. And the idea that, you know, people make these judgments for other people not really knowing anything about them, I think is, first of all, it's very un-American. It's not loving at all, even though it presents itself that way. You know what I mean? I would just love if you would have, I would love to hear her, and I would love to hear some other women really contribute to what I'm saying. It's not a left or right issue. It's an issue of gender. And the idea that you have a group that wants to erase that from the rest of society is disturbing.
I agree. What I will do is I will invite Germaine Greer. I will invite someone who would oppose her, and I will devote an entire hour on the Progressive Commentary Hour on Tuesday night to that topic. But keep in mind, behind almost every movement today is a political motive that is not being discussed. Where if you can focus upon identity politics, you can get that group of people into your political field, and those are votes in the next election. And that's the cynical dark side of these movements. Whereas important issues like global warming, important issues like universal health care, important issues like ending the war on drugs, these are major issues that impact everyone every day of their lives. The desertification of the Southwest, the elimination of the ability to grow crops. We're not talking about any of these issues. There's no real legislation. There's no real movement. There's no debate. There's no discussion, because these can't be brought into that little rich minefield of identity politics. So I'll deal with this, Christian. I appreciate your call. Thank you very much. Remember, never confuse the people who have the stage in a moment and are having their 15 minutes of fame for all those tens of millions of Americans who are sitting quietly behind and watching this and wondering, why are they trying to dictate to me how I should live my life? And there's going to be a blowback on all these issues. I'm Gary Null. This is the place, at least, where we believe in sharing ideas, allowing freedom of speech, and exploring that which normally is not. I look forward to sharing more tomorrow. Have a nice day, everyone.